Nayak is a highly reflexive film in that it articulates a lot of what Satyajit Ray felt about cinema in his native Bengal. Rai's own relationship to that industry was fraught, to say the least. He did not particularly care for stars. He was invested in a certain sort of naturalism and realism that the popular film to him did not seem to represent. Nayak did not do well in terms of box office in India. This was the first time he was working with Uttam Kumar, the biggest star of Bengali cinema. But this was unlike a Rai film and unlike an Uttam Kumar film. Nayak is a definitive turn toward something else. Nayak is more complex as a film than it might seem at first go. It's poised between the classicism of the early films and the more sort of audacious formal experiments that he would do in the later films, like in the City trilogy. There is a sense in which the bulk of Satyajit Ray's work is read through the lens of neorealism, and I think that sort of does disservice to the range of cinematic tools and styles that he used. Let us not forget that he was a cinephile. We forget that he was really influenced and enriched by the cinema he watched. Nayak is very much a dialogue with Eight and a Half. I mean, the similarities are unmistakable. You have in Nayak a film star who's perhaps on the brink of a decline. In Eight and a Half, of course, Guido is having a director's block of sorts. But more importantly, the film is structured through both dream sequences and flashbacks. And in fact, Rai modeled Uttam Kumar's look on Marcello Mastroianni's. If you look at the two films side by side, you'll see that especially in dark glasses, Uttam Kumar very much resembles Marcello, give or take a little. I mean, he's Bengali, so. Rai wanted to make a film about a matinee idol. And I think he wanted to place that matinee idol in an unusual situation.
But as a rule, films are bad.
কিন্তু ফিল্ম একটাই কি দোষ করলো দাদু?
Film actors drink as a rule.
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু তাতে
It shows a lack of restraint and lack of discipline.
Nayak literally means hero in Bangla. And it is a descriptive title. This is about the hero, and it is about sort of peeling away the layers of heroism and exposing the man underneath. And this man may not be very heroic after all. For this film to work, something of Uttam Kumar's own stardom had to inform Arindam, had to sort of gather around Arindam. Arindam would not be convincing as this idol of millions who kind of women are swooning over even inside the train unless it was played by someone like that. And Rai was very clear about it. Uttam Kumar is the biggest star that the commercial Bengali film industry has produced. He acted in hundreds of wildly popular and successful films from the 50s through the 70s. In terms of star power, sheer star charisma, there has not been a star like Uttam Kumar since. There is something incredibly Bengali about his stardom. Uttam Kumar seemed familiar. Uttam Kumar seemed like a regular person in many ways. Just more handsome, more talented, and more, kind of attractive in every way possible. One of the things to note about Uttam Kumar, and I think this is why Satyajit Ray cast him or thought about him, is that he was a very, very fine actor. And from comedies to more serious roles to kind of playing the anguished lover, as Aditi Sengupta says in Nayak, is there anything this man can't do?
Champion, সাঁতার champion, নাচ জানে, গান জানে, প্রগতিশীল, এমএতে ফার্স্ট ক্লাস, দারুণ প্রেমিক। আচ্ছা বলুন তা তো সব বিশ্বাস হয়?
She's in fact talking about the kinds of characters that Uttam Kumar would play. So the central character of Arindam is in many ways Uttam Kumar, or what Rai thought Uttam Kumar was. It's interesting to learn that Rai, in fact, did not discuss Uttam Kumar's role with him very much. There was no conversation about, do you think this is a star's life? Do you think this is a fair portrayal of the film industry? Do you think this is how stars think of themselves and their stardom? None of that. He merely directed Uttam Kumar to do certain things, and Uttam Kumar did those things. Certainly, this is one of his finest performances. There is no question about that. Uttam Kumar brought a certain kind of gravitas and sensitivity to the role that is absolutely stunning even today. So we have gained a lot from this collaboration. However unlikely it was. Satyajit Ray made sure that Uttam Kumar did certain things differently in this film. For example, he insisted that Uttam Kumar wear less makeup than he usually would. This is why I love the close-ups of the film. If you look at Subrata Mitra's close-ups of Uttam Kumar's face, of which there are many, you can see some of the discoloration and spots on his face. This was not a close-up that you got to see in any other kind of Uttam Kumar film. So the painted face and the face underneath, Rai was interested in disturbing that equation. The whole point of Nayak is demystification of the star. So when Aditi Sengupta goes to elicit her interview, Arindam refuses because he understands quite instinctively that his stardom is sustained by a certain sort of distance from his audiences. So in that sense, Arindam is quite astute in his reading of how stardom works.
দেখুন মিস সেনগুপ্তা, আমাদের খুব বেশি কথা বলতে নেই। আমরা ছায়ার জগতে বিচরণ করি তো, কাজে কাজে আমাদের রক্ত মাংসের জ্যান্ত শরীরটা জনসাধারণের সামনে খুব বেশি করে তুলে না ধরাই ভালো।
It's interesting that he says that we are creatures of light and shadow. We should not be turned into real flesh and blood human beings, because that would be the process of demystifying the star. And Aditi does not want anything else, so she leaves. And it is only after his own sort of struggle with certain demons and skeletons literally in his closet that he decides to confide in Aditi.
আপনি কি আবার ঘুমিয়ে টুমিয়ে স্বপ্ন টপ্ন দেখেলেন নাকি?
দেখলাম যে আমি টাকার চোরাবালির মধ্যে ডুবে যাচ্ছি। সংকট ইচ্ছে করলে আমার তুলতে পারতো, কিন্তু কিন্তু তুললো না। আর আমি সে বিভৎস ব্যাপার।
Sharmila Tagore is one of Rai's most famous discoveries. He met her when she was very young, barely 12 or 13 years old, and of course he famously cast her in Opur Sangshar as Aparna. Thereafter, he worked with her several times. He was clearly very, very impressed with her. To my mind, Satyajit Ray uses Sharmila in two different ways. In the early films, he uses her face and body in a purely sort of cinematic way. Who can forget Aparna's face in Opur Sangshar when she weeps through the tear in the window curtain, right? And who can forget Dayamoyi's plight when all of the life has been sucked out of her because she's now a goddess. In the later films, beginning with Nayak, and this is why I think Nayak is a milestone in Sharmila's career as well,
আমার মতো
he uses her sort of as this moral center, a sort of ethical compass, if you will. And in fact, Arindam says this in jest.
শুনুন, আপনি বিবেকের ভূমিকায় খুব ভালো অভিনয় করতে পারবেন।
বিবেকটা কি খারাপ জিনিস?
Aditi Sengupta, who Arindam, of course, continues to call Miss Sengupta throughout Nayak, is intelligent, sensitive, poised, and most importantly, a professional.
বাবা তুমি একাই এই কাগজ পার করো? একা ঠিক নয়, আরো দুজন আছে, তবে উৎসাহটা প্রধানত আমারই। এই সব মেয়েদের লেখা? এই দেখুন না, পড়বো, প্রুফ দেখবো, লেখার কোনো অভাব নেই।
She edits a women's magazine called Adhunika, which means modern woman. And yes, she's an incredibly modern figure in many ways in the film, not just because she's a journalist, but also because she chooses to do certain things and refuses to do others. We don't know what her financial circumstances are, but she is going to Delhi for a grant for her magazine, and she is traveling in the chair car, which is less expensive than the sleeper class. All of these details sort of enable us to think of Aditi as a real flesh and blood person too, instead of just Miss Adhunika or the role of the conscience, right? She too is human. She's also rather non-judgmental. If anything, she realizes that a human being is behind the star, right? And so she's fairly forgiving of all the crimes and misdemeanors that he's listing to her. But the most non-judgmental thing she does is, of course, by letting him off the hook. We know that there is an episode with Promila.
আমি নায়িকার পাঠটা পেতে পারি?
নায়িকা তো ঠিক হয়ে গেছে।
জানি।
তবে
আমাকে দিয়ে হবে না?
We know he suffers from deep guilt, and we know that he is uncomfortable with both the emotional and social consequences of this affair, but she does not want to know, which I think is very graceful, very dignified, also very modern.
ধরে নিলে আপনার সব বলা হয়ে গেছে, আমি সব জেনে নিয়েছি।
কি করে জানলেন?
অনুমান করে।
Being respectful of another human being's privacy, where you can offer some sort of emotional absolution, if you will, without knowing the gory details, which is precisely what everyone else wants to know. Trains are famous in Satyajit Ray's filmography. In the Opu trilogy, for example, they both stand for a certain gesture toward the world outside and symbols of lament and loss often. So trains stand in for very many different things and moods and tones and affect in Ray's work. And Nayak is exceptional because he, of course, chose to set the entire narrative inside of a train, except for a couple of shots in Howrah Station. The rest of the film was shot inside a studio. He abhors and deplores the fact that commercial films do not use landscapes properly. To him, landscapes are spaces and landscapes are very important. But for this film, it was kind of critical to have a hermetically sealed off space, to have an enclosed space as kind of a microcosm for a larger, at least middle-class Bengali society. The corridor that runs alongside the sleeper suites in Nayak is actually an arena of much drama. Not only do people pass each other often, a lot of important emotional moments are registered in this corridor in very closed spaces. So it's important to note who gets to pass by whom, which characters interact and sort of meet in this hallway. The little girl whose name we don't know, Arindam encounters her twice in this corridor. The first time she's friendly and they have a brief interaction. The second time he's drunk and she's terrified and runs away. Random encounters like this actually adds to the overall emotional tenor of the story because Arindam is hurting from everything. Even the little girl's terrified retreat seems like a rejection to him at that point. We know Satyajit Ray was marvelous with children. Children are never just cute, insignificant creatures in his films. In terms of Bulbul, she witnesses Arindam's nightmares, his sadness, and his inebriated state. She silently witnesses all of this very adult range of emotions and experiences that Arindam goes through. I think it was important that someone not be able to move from that situation and just be this sort of constant witness of what's going on. And the fact that it's a child is a kind of a stroke of genius because children process so much in Ray's films.
আচ্ছা এই হচ্ছে তোমার ফার্স্ট পজিশন
আচ্ছা
আমি অ্যাকশন বললে এগিয়ে এসে দাঁড়াচ্ছি বলছো বাবা তারপর ওর রিয়াকশন
Alongside a sort of fictional biography of a star, Nayak is also Satyajit Ray's commentary on cinema and the other arts in India. And that is why Shankarda and Mukunda Lahiri are very important figures. Mukunda Lahiri is Satyajit Ray's comment on a certain kind of florid theatrical acting style. Right? Mukunda Lahiri reminds us in Nayak that his voice and his kind of general presence on screen took time to perfect. But once he had perfected a certain kind of performance style, he was not going to veer from it. And that is why Arindam's understated naturalism bothers him.
বিড়বিড় করছো কেন?
আগে এখানে একটু কমই চাইছিল না?
কম চাইছিল?
বঙ্কিম লিখেছেন যে সেকালে ছেলেরা বাপের সামনে গলা তুলতো না।
না তুললেও একটা সামঞ্জস্য থাকবে বই কি। আমি জল বলবো তুমি তেল বলবে দুটো মিশ খাবে কি করে?
So Rai is talking about an acting tradition that is very much in place. But of course, that is not what he considers to be good acting. And what Rai considers to be good acting is what Arindam considers to be good acting, which is understated, naturalistic, real, acting that does not seem like it's acting. Cinema was not considered to be an art. Art was painting, theater, literature, all of these things, music could be considered arts. But cinema was a mass-produced, crassly commercial enterprise that was made for other ends, made for the market. Shankarda's character is incredibly important because Shankarda works in the theater. Cinema would never have the prestige that theater would. And so you see Shankarda pretty much saying this to Arindam, right? That a film actor is merely a puppet.
Nothing but a puppet.
And he also says there's a nasty business side to cinema.
সেটা কেবল সাপ্লাই ডিমান্ডের খেলা তোর পরপর দুটো ছবি লেগে গেল তুই তত্তর করে উপরে উঠে গেলি তারপর তোর 3 নম্বর মার খেলো 4 নম্বর মার খেলো তুই দেখলি যে সিঁড়ি দিয়ে তুই উঠেছিলি সেটা যেন তোকে সরিয়ে নিয়ে গেছে
Shankarda becomes that voice of a discourse that disparages cinema as a kind of bastard institution, if you will. It's also instructive to note that at the moment when Shankarda's corpse is being burnt, that Arindam decides to take the risk, to take the plunge. So his film career is literally born out of the ashes of his career in the theater. The metaphor of the market is very important in Nayak. Arindam is very concerned about the box office fate of his films. Everyone else is also in this sort of transactional domain where favors are exchanged. Things are bought and sold and exchanged. We have Mr. Sarkar and Molly, his young wife, and Mr. Sarkar aspires to be more successful than he is as an advertising man and is more than willing to pimp his wife out to Mr. Bose, the elderly gentleman who's corporate head honcho, which is devastating for Molly because she sees it exactly for what it is. She is willing to make this compromise, to go along with this plan, but she wants to be rewarded in some way.
আমার একটা রিকোয়েস্ট আছে রাখবে
বলুন।
আমি ফিল্মে নামতে চাই, আপনি হেল্প করতে পারেন?
What's important to pay attention to is this moral bankruptcy that Rai is interested in pointing out. It's this overarching kind of system of transaction where human beings are pawns and human beings can be bought and sold as well.
আজকে কোম্পানি শ্রমিকদের উপর কি ধরনের
বিদেশ কারখানা গেটের সামনে দাঁড়িয়ে স্পিচ ঝাড়তো, আর আমি ওই ভিড় ছেড়ে এক পাশটায় দাঁড়িয়ে আমার সামনের নাটকের স্পিচগুলো ঝালিয়ে নিত।
One of the criticisms that Satyajit Ray had to face throughout his career as a filmmaker was his, quote, apolitical stance. The fact that he was not political enough. This was an allegation or a charge that he had to contend with over and over again. And Nayak was some sort of response to it. So, in order to understand how he responded to this charge, it's interesting to think of the character of Biresh. Why do we encounter Biresh at all? It's because Arindam does abdicate a certain social responsibility, right? If the social responsibility of the artist is to also participate in some sense in the political circumstances that surround her or him, then Arindam is unwilling to do that.
24 দিন হলো স্ট্রাইক চলেছে, আমি তোর কথাও তো বলেছি, ওরা তোকে এক্সপেক্ট করছে, ওরাও তো তোর পাবলিক।
ইম্পসিবল।
কি বলছিস ইম্পসিবল? আই নেই।
শুন, তুই বুঝছিস না, এসব ব্যাপারে আমাদের আর চড়ানো চলে না।
He's not able to respect Biresh's commitment to the cause and therefore loses respect in Biresh's eyes. But this is also a fall from grace in front of our eyes because we want him to get out of that car and deliver a fiery speech. But he does not. Satyajit Ray has in several interviews said that it's patently unfair to allege this apolitical stance because his politics are fairly clear. It's quite unfortunate because it shows us that we see politics as only a certain range of things and not others, right? It depends on how you read the political in cinema. I would think that the manner in which he understands, imagines women is deeply political. There are many different ways in which we can engage with the political in his work. And I feel like only a very limited set of determinants were brought to bear on this question at the time.
কেমন আছেন?
সবই তো বোঝেন, বলুন তো কেমন আছে?
ভালো। কেন?
না, কোথায় যেন মনে হচ্ছে একটা ফাঁক রয়ে গেছে, একটা অভাব বোধ করছে।
I'm not sure that Arindam is not transformed. He at least has been able to speak honestly and candidly to another human being. So he has been able to unburden himself. Whether that introspection and confession creates a different kind of star, we don't know. Nayak may on paper seem like a fairly straightforward fictional biography of a star, but it's a film that really rewards multiple viewings. There is a lot going on in it in terms of what the ancillary characters bring, what they stand for, what sort of critique Rai was able to articulate through them. It is also Rai's commentary on arts in India and in Bengal in particular. All of this make it an important film in his career.